Did you, well, that's a little, oh, here we go. What happened?
I think it started. I'm not sure. Are they all waiting? She's talking, but I can't hear a thing.
Hey, we're ready.
How's that? God, I'll get this down. So, sorry for the delay, computer problems again, and I call the regular session of the May 4th, 2021 City of Detroit City Council meeting to order at 5:41. Roll call.
Todd Smith, Police and Safety Commissioner.
Building Commissioner.
Tim Luke, Water Commissioner.
Greg, you're on mute. You're muted,
Yep.
Greg.
Yep, you're muted.
Still muted.
Top right hand of your screen, Shep.
I like you, Greg. I like you, Shep. Is it legal to just say we know he's here?
He could wave.
Greg, try the lower left-hand side. See if you get a microphone with a line through it. There you go.
Greg Shepherd, Street Commissioner.
Great. Thank you. Approval of the agenda, and additions, subtractions. Special orders of business. Anything there? Anybody have anything? Committee reports. And public comments. This is time set aside for committees, or this is time set aside for comments from the public on matters not on the agenda. Commenters are limited to 3 minutes. Time may not be yielded. Questions from the council or staff or two commenters shall not be counted against the allotted 3-minute time. Anybody have any public comment?
Oh, so how do they make public comment?
Don Tesdall would like to make comment.
Okay. Don Tesdale, thank you.
Yep, so I just wanted to talk about a couple things that are not necessarily on the agenda tonight. One of which is on the agenda, and that would be the in-person meetings. As a resident of Detroit, my concern about the meetings is, will you be requiring all council members to attend all council meetings in person, or will it be the once a month council meetings? And I'm just curious if it's every meeting or not. From my personal opinion, I do not want Councilor Tesdall driving that road several times a month in the evening. So just as a husband and the father of and the wife of my children, I don't necessarily want her driving that several times a month during for council meetings. I don't appreciate that. There's a lot of motor vehicle accidents that I go on that road at night. It bothers me. The worst accidents seem to occur in the dark when everybody's asleep or going to bed, and people are not paying attention at night. There's horrible things that happen on that highway that I get to witness firsthand as a first responder that really concerns me. I don't want that road traveled any more than it needs to be. I always warn people to not travel that road in the dark. Related to that, I'd be curious to know, not on the agenda as well, as the current city hall situation. I do know that the city has money for a rebuild, and I'm not sure what's happening with that money. I'm not sure if the city plans on rebuilding in the same spot, if they plan on rebuilding, or if they plan on using the civic center that's being built for that, for the purpose of city council meetings. I keep hearing rumors that the city council may be meeting in the civic center on a long-term basis, and that the city council, that the city of Detroit may be leasing a space from the Detroit Lake Foundation for the civic center. I don't know if there's any truth to this at all. I just want to bring it to light that that's some of the conversation that as a resident, I've been up in Detroit quite a bit. We're just about full time up there again. And some of the things that I hear about, I'm bringing to light now. I'm concerned about where the city hall meetings will be held and when they will be held in Detroit. As a current resident of Kaiser, fixing to be full time in Detroit, I would like to know what is the city council's plan for a city hall in Detroit? Is it to be at the Civic Center, or is it to be in a new building using insurance dollars for that purpose?
Okay, Don, that's your 3 minutes.
I'll take it. Thank you.
Thank you. I know, and that's the problem with this whole system. You guys, it's hard for you to hear out there, because if we undo this stuff, echo and back, all that kind of good stuff. So we're still playing with how to do that. This is what we talked about. We should talk about that, right? I'm looking at the guy that knows this stuff. Okay. Okay. Well, we can address the meeting thing with the resolution that we're looking at tonight, Don, and go from there. I will tell you, the city hall or the community center, our intention is to have city council meetings in that civic center. That space is being provided to us by the foundation. And we hopefully, as soon as that gym is ready, which is converted into the community room, I would hope that council would start holding meetings back up there as soon as that space is available. And Mr. Duncan of Rich Duncan Construction has said they have targeted having that building completed by Labor Day weekend, because they want to have a party. So I would hope that beginning September, we would begin to hold meetings back up there. Gosh. And that's the thing. We're not talking lease. It's my understanding at this point. It's a use of the building for us and the fire department. Fire department will have 2 bays. We'll have the use of the office space. They could deed that to us after construction. The foundation is in contact with the city on how we're going to make that happen. But right now, it's not going to be a lease that the city's going to have to pay. It gives us a bigger space, more office space, which we need. And it also frees up the property that the old city hall was on for development and sale to private enterprise, which would increase our tax base. So that's the plan right now. It's pretty well locked in, and we go from there. Anybody else?
Trat, Elaine DeGeorge. Oops.
Elaine.
Get out of. Hi. I am back in Detroit, and my Detroit Lodge is fully cleaned up, which I'm very happy to see. Commissioner, we have you on. So anyways, what I would like to offer in my days up here, we're getting back to the commissioners here with me. I would like to offer the restaurant. The front of that restaurant would be the perfect meeting place until the Civic Center will be ready. We could do our meetings there, air conditioning, beverages. Everybody's centrally located here. Everybody's working on their projects. We don't have time to drive to Kaiser. I don't want to drive to Kaiser. I mean, let's do the Zoom. until September. I mean, I think it's the smartest thing to do. I don't want to ever go down that mountain. I want to just plant my vehicle here and stay here. I mean, it's just between all the roadblocks. I mean, it's just the craziest thing. Another thought, we could put that school trailer over at my lot next to the Consumer Powers trailer. They've got internet, they've got power. I would be even happy to pay the power bill till September. But we've got to have our council people back here. We miss you. Mayor Trett, we miss you. Detroit needs you up here. I mean, there's so much action and so many things going on right now. And I really think it's our best interest to keep our Detroit people in Detroit. So that is my thoughts on things.
Thank you. Anybody else? We can look at
Yes,
those.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Cameron.
Yeah, Kevin Cameron. I reside at 425 Cluster, also a member of the Planning Commission. Input on city council meetings. I would think it would be great, no matter where they're located, that we make sure that council members and other members of the public can attend via Zoom. I'm standing in front of the Detroit Post Office right now. If you're going to meet at the Kaiser Center, I don't have any problem with that, as long as I can attend by Zoom, or a city councilor who lives up here could attend by Zoom. I wouldn't put any requirements on physical appearance until there's a permanent facility that the council could meet in. And I think that sounds like it's going to be the city council chambers at the community center. So that would be my testimony tonight. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Mayor and members of the council.
Thank you. Okay. And I think it would be safe to say, and we've said this, at least I've said this several times, and I'm sincere about it. I'm hoping that, or my intention is that when we do get back to wherever it is, we do some kind of streaming for people to have, so people can watch it, second homeowners, whoever from wherever can tune in and watch it on a streaming, some kind of streaming device, whether that's Zoom or another platform, but at least something where people can participate by watching and go. So, thank you. Somebody else. Okay. Thank you, everyone. So moving along, and we'll check into some of those things. Public hearing, ordinance considering consideration of ordinance setting the time, location, and manner of meetings of the Detroit City Council. It's in your council packet, pages 1 through 8. So I need to get to it here. There we go. So I have to read this. Here's the deal. If there's no objection, I'll read it by title only in council. If there is objection, I have to read the whole thing. So if you haven't, whatever the council is, do I have a unanimous approval to read it by title only?
Yay.
Okay. Okay.
Aye.
Councilor Shepherd? Read it by title only, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. An ordinance adopting certain rules of the council prescribing the time and place of council meetings, providing for the appointment of officers, repealing ordinance 157 and declaring an emergency. Basically, it talks about everything that we've talked about here. Our regular session, council session, will be the first Tuesday of each month at 6:30 p.m., which it has been for years. Come to find out, investigation for years, we're supposed to be meeting at 7:30, but somehow it got switched to 6:30. We don't know when or how. And so this would make it original back to that time that we've all known about for a long time, 6:30 in the evening. We could also have a special meeting or a special session on the third Tuesday of the month. That is not required. If we don't have business to discuss, it would be, we would just have to cancel the meeting. It does allow for Zooms in some cases. as you do look at that for council members who couldn't get to the regular meeting site with special considerations. So I think between now and when we do have council back in chamber, that would be something that we should take seriously in terms of how we want to handle this. So this is a public comment. So at this time, I'm going to open to the public for comment on an ordinance adopting certain rules of the council, prescribing the time and place of council meetings, providing for the appointment of officers, and repealing ordinance 157 and declaring an emergency. I declare the public hearing open at 5:56 p.m. Is there anybody who wishes to testify on this ordinance? Mr. Epley. Right. Right. But the third Tuesday could be canceled if there was no, is that how you read that? That's what we got from council.
Chris is muted.
Chris, you're muted to people who are listening. Okay. So does that make clear to everybody? Okay.
Unless it's not feasible at the moment. And attendance, until it is feasible, can be electronic through various means.
Yeah. Okay. Any other public comment? Gina Oddish. Gina, is your hand up? I can't hear you. We can't hear you. No, can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm Gina Aldrich, resident of 205 and 215 Boulder Street in Detroit. I would just like to make the supporting comment that the meetings go back to 6:30 to help accommodate people who are getting off work and being able to participate, and also encourage and support that the meetings get held back in Detroit as quickly as possible, but at the same time understanding that we need to have a location where you can hold those. And in addition, I think everybody who's on council did not plan to go through what we've gone through in the last year or last 7 months. And when they set out to be on the council, wasn't necessarily to do a meeting every week. And so taking that into consideration, I support all of the hard work that you guys are doing and your commitment. I applaud you all for that. But I also think it's important that you look at accommodating everybody in being able to participate, whether you're council or citizens, both Zoom and in person. You know, people have vacations that they've scheduled, but they can also participate if they're on Zoom. That goes for both the council and for the public. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other anybody from the public would like to comment on this ordinance? If okay. Right. For those of you who couldn't understand that, Mr. Epley said that this does repeal ordinance 157, so we don't have a double thing in the book. And I hope that makes sense to folks. With that, I close the public hearing at 6 o'clock. Do I have a motion?
Close the public hearing.
I'm sorry? Do I have
You
a
want
motion?
a motion to close the public hearing, Jim?
Yes, no, I don't. I think, do we need a motion? We don't need a motion for that. No. To adopt, yeah. So the motion is, do I have a motion to adopt ordinance, this ordinance adopting certain rules of the council, prescribing the time and place of the council meeting, providing for the appointment of officers, repealing ordinance 157, and declaring an emergency? Councilor Engel.
I make a motion that we accept Phil's motion.
Have a motion to approve the ordinance. Discussion.
Second.
So second, Counselor. Thank you, guys. Second, Counselor Page. Now discussion. Counselor
Judge,
Engel.
While I appreciate the offer of a space, for instance, by Elaine and using her space in Detroit, that's wonderful. We will not be allowed to use a space that's small as long as we have COVID restrictions in place. We're allowed to only have so many people and so much square footage. And so if you have 9 people that are continually at our meetings, we can't be in a space that's small and have the required 6 feet apart. I don't think. I love the offer. I think it's a great idea. I just am concerned at this point with the COVID restrictions and the requirements.
Thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor of adopting an ordinance adopting certain rules of the council. Yes, I'm sorry. Counselor Smith, you're on the side.
I do like this amendment for everybody, for the Zoom especially. And, you know, hopefully maybe we can even have, come August or July, maybe have it in Detroit outside like we did in the past for the previous, I know last August we did that. So that's something to consider too when it starts getting to be nice weather consistently. So.
And we would remind everybody, we routinely have the meeting of August open for the public on a Saturday afternoon. So hopefully we can do that in the park and go from there. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of adopting the ordinance adopting certain rules of the council, presiding the time and place of the council meeting, providing for the appointment of officers, repealing ordinance 157, and declaring an emergency, signify by raising your hand so we can see people on the.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Land use variance 20-01 to section 2.1.5B1 of the Detroit Development Code. City Council is in your agenda packet. Go from there. And folks, this is a variance, so I'm going to have to go through a land use variance, so we're going to have to read a whole bunch here because it's required by state law. We will now move to item number 7B on the agenda, which is the consideration of a variance application. We will be conducting a public hearing on this item to allow for comments from all interested parties. Oregon land use law requires several items to be read into the record at the beginning of each and every land use public hearing. I am now going to read that material. Patience is appreciated as these statements and instructions are read. This evening, we'll be holding a public hearing on City of Detroit Variance 21-01. These proceedings will be recorded. These hearings will be held in accordance with the land use procedures required for an evidentiary hearing as required by the city and the state of Oregon. As part of the hearing tonight, staff will identify the applicable substantive criteria which have also been listed in the staff report. These are the criteria that City Council must use in making the decision. All testimony and evidence must be directed toward the criteria or other criteria in the city's comprehensive plan, city land use regulations, or state law which you believe apply to decision per ORS 197.7635. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the city council and parties involved the opportunity to respond to the issue may preclude an appeal based on that issue. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues related to proposed conditions of the approval without sufficient specificity to allow the city council or appropriate to respond to the issue may preclude inaction for damages in circuit court. Any proponent, opponent, or other party interested in the land use matter may challenge the qualification of any councilor to participate in such hearings and the decision on the basis of conflicts of interest, ex parte contact, or bias. Such challenges must state facts relied by the party relating to the councilor's conflicts, ex parte contact, or bias, which the party has concluded that the council will not make the decision in an impartial manner. Excuse me. The hearing will proceed with the staff report, followed by the applicant, and then we will be taking testimony from proponents, then opponents, and finally those that are neutral. Then we will have an opportunity for staff response, council questions, and the applicant will be given a final opportunity to rebut the testimony or evidence if the applicant feels it is necessary. We ask that all speakers identify their name and mailing address for the public record before beginning their statement. We ask for your name and address so that we can provide you with a copy of the final decision in this matter. Speakers' comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person, and speakers may not yield this time to others, with the exception of the applicant, who will not have a time limit. With those instructions about the public hearing out of the way, I'll ask if any counselor wishes to disclose an actual or potential conflict of interest in this matter. When I call your name, please indicate if you have any actual or potential conflicts of interest that you wish to disclose. Councilor Smith. Councilor Luke. Councilor Luke.
Yes?
Do you have a conflict, ex parte contact or bias here?
No, sir.
Okay. Councilor Chesdale.
No.
Councilor Page.
No.
Councilor Shepard.
No.
Council President Engel.
No.
Mayor Trent, no. Oregon law requires land use decisions to be made by an impartial decision maker. Oregon law also requires that a decision on land use applications be made on the facts presented in this hearing and not on considerations outside this hearing, such as bias or ex parte contact. At this point, I'm going to ask for each counselor to detect whether you have any bias or ex parte contact if you have visited the property that is subject to the land use application that is before us. As I call your name, a simple yes or no is all that's required. If you believe you have a bias with respect to this application, you have had ex parte contact with respect to this application, or if you visited the property that is the subject of this application, you requested to declare your bias, ex parte contact, or the nature of your visit. So once again, Councilor Smith.
No.
Councilor Luke.
No.
Councilor Chesdale.
No.
Councilor Page.
No.
Councilor Shepard.
No.
Council President Engel.
I have walked by and driven by this property many times over the course of 21 years.
Do you feel that you can make a decision on this issue in an impartial manner?
Yes, I do.
Mayor Trent, no. Does any party participating in this hearing wish to challenge a counselor's ability to hear this matter? With the preliminaries out of the way, it's now time to open the public hearing on variance 2101. We'll start with the staff report. McCray Carmichael. McCray.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you. I'd first like to enter into the record my staff report for variance 2021-01. Applicant is Keith Munn. The request is for a variance to section 2.1.5 B1 of the Detroit Development Code to reduce the front yard / yard adjacent to a street setback from an accessory structure from 15 feet to 9 feet for the front yard setback along the yard fronting on 2nd Street in the RS zone. This property is zoned RS. It's located at 100 2nd Street and abuts Highway 22 to the north. 2nd Street dead ends essentially onto this property. The criteria that you all will be using tonight to review this variance is section 2.1 of the RS zone and section 5.1 for variances. Attached in the staff report is Exhibit A, a location map, a site plan. Exhibit B was the site plan. Exhibit C is the applicant's materials, and Exhibit D is the applicant's statement in response to the staff report that went to Planning Commission. The background for this application, The applicant is proposing an accessory structure that measures 34 by 57 feet, approximately 1,958 square feet. Class C variance is a type 3 procedure, and we're using the criteria in chapter 5.1.4C2 for a type 3 decision. This was initially considered by the Planning Commission on April 27th with a Planning Commission recommendation to City Council for this hearing. Application was received on March 10th. Notice was sent to property owners within 250 feet on April 7th. Requests for comments were sent to agencies on April 7th, 2021. Staff posted notice on the property on April 17th, as required by section 4.1.5C. Planning Commission held a public hearing on 4/27, and Planning Commission recommends approval to the City Council. Staff recommended denial of this application for the variance to the Planning Commission, citing criteria and F were not met, and Planning Commission voted to recommend approval of the variance to City Council. The applicant's home and accessory structure was destroyed by the Beecher Creek fire in September in 2020. This accessory structure was originally built meeting the 15-foot setback. The structure was 32 by 60 feet and totaled 1,920 square feet. It should be noted that the criteria, what you are reviewing tonight, is just the setback from 15 to 9 feet. The applicant is meeting other development standards for the accessory structure, or will be reviewed at the building permit time if this is approved. So with that, we are going to go through the 6 criteria that this decision, that the staff report is based on. So first, the proposed variance. I'm going to read the criteria for you. The proposed variance will not be materially detrimental to the purposes of this code or to any other applicable policies and standards and to other properties in the same land use. So the applicant proposed to have the nature of this property is at the end of Dead End Street on 2nd Street. It's an irregular shaped lot. They are proposing this new accessory structure in size because of, and to come into the setback because of the fires, because they can't use the original tie downs and post locations. And staff determined that this criteria was met because the only development that can happen around this property is to the west. There is an adjacent lot, but then it's surrounded by right of way and is fairly secluded beyond that. Criteria B, a hardship to development exists which is peculiar to the lot size or shape, topography, sensitive lands, or other similar circumstances related to the property over which the applicant has no control and or which are not applicable to other properties in the vicinity. So this property is zoned RS. It's an irregular shaped lot, longer frontage along 2nd Street. It becomes more narrow and steeper. And then to the east, it is boundaried by Highway 22. The applicants already come in for their manufactured home replacement, and where their septic and drain field is kind of limits the use of their site to this front area. And this is where the accessory structure was located before the fire. It should be noted that at that time, the applicant did, when he initially got his accessory structure permit in 2016 and finalized in 2019, he did meet the 15-foot setback, but the reason why he's coming in now and having to move it up is both because of his drain field location and because of the disturbed soils from the fire and his ability to put the post in. So staff have determined that the nature, the site and the conditions of the soil because of the fire, that he's met this criteria. The use proposed will be the same as permitted under this title, and city standards will be maintained to the greatest extent that is reasonably possible while permitting reasonable economic use of the land. Findings, no change of use is proposed. This is the same development as proposed before and is permitted in the RS zone. Criteria D, existing physical and natural systems, such as but not limited to traffic, drainage, natural resources, and parks will not be adversely affected any more than would occur if the development occurred as specified by the code, and staff determined that no negative effects to this development will happen physically or to the natural systems. Criteria E, the hardship is not self-imposed. Staff determined the existing hardship is self-imposed as the applicant is proposing this building at the size and scale it is. Staff finds the applicant could build an accessory structure on the property while also complying with the setback requirements of the zone. The applicant wishes to build the structure at the size that they do. So staff determined that this criterion was not met. During the hearing, Planning Commission determined that the impact was because of the Beach Creek fire, and this was not self-imposed, that the impacts of the soil and his ability to build back in his original location is impacted, and he can't replace the structure in that way, and that this circumstance, this criterion was met because it is not self-imposed. Criteria F, the variance requested is the minimum variance that would alleviate the hardship. Staff determined that found in the original application that there was not enough material presented from the applicant, that this was the minimum needed to alleviate the hardship. At the hearing last week, the applicant and the applicant's representative testified of the soil conditions and constraints on the site, and that this was based on their need and previously having a similar sized accessory structure. He wanted to have the same size structure built back. And the Planning Commission found because of the fire, his site location, the soils, and the drain fields placement requirements, that this was the minimum variance needed to alleviate the hardship, and a direct match to the previous structure and size scale was warranted. So based on this criteria, Planning Commission recommends approval of variance 2021-01. And with that, I will answer any questions for the council that I can.
Does anyone have questions of staff? A reminder, this is an opportunity to ask questions, not deliberate on the application. Any questions from council?
I have to,
Councilor Payne.
thank you. I have to back up and at least express potential ex parte on this, because it's been, well, probably 5 or 7 years ago, I did attend a function at that property following a snowmobile club meeting. So I've been there, but it doesn't look anything like it did when I was there the last time. So I haven't seen the property up close since the fire. I did want to declare that. And I do have a question about the building. That is are we talking is it the basically the same footprint, just moving it?
That would be a question to McCray.
Great.
Yeah.
We're going to come to, we get Keith here next.
All right.
Okay, so it is modified a little. The size was originally 32 by 60, and it's now modified to 34 by 57. So the square footage of the entire structure is a little bit more. Originally, it was 1,920 square feet, and now it's 1,958 as proposed, but it's relatively close in size.
Okay. That's all I got. Thank you.
So Eric, then I'll ask you, Councilor, do you believe that you can still act impartially on this application? By the way?
Yeah, I don't think I have any problem there.
Thank you. Now we move on to the applicant, Mr. Munn. Can you come up to, Eric, can you use your computer again? Keith, if you'd go over there and kind of use that computer. Well, we need it on the record though.
Should I? Well, I don't know where. Don't worry about the microphone, just talk right into the computer and it's already set up for you. You'll see your face. Thank you. Yep.
My name is Keith Munn. I live at 100 2nd Street, Detroit, Oregon. My shop was a 60-foot by 32-foot. We're bringing it to the south 6 feet, and we're shortening the overall length of it by 3 feet. And I've asked to increase it by 2 feet on the front end. And the reason behind that is when this building was built, we bored holes in for the post. Now, to take those posts out, we would have to take a great big gigantic area of like 2 feet by 5 feet to dig those posts out. And our engineers have told us that the ground would be way, way too unstable at that point. I have looked at several other ways of building another building. Their steel building, a masonry building, and most of those, even though lumber has skyrocketed, the cost of a steel building and a brick building, the cost of that is just astronomical. It's still, with the price of lumber, it's still cheaper in the long run for me to build another shop, another pole barn. So that's what I'm asking to do. And I also have with me today on Zoom is 2 of my contractors with me, and they're better at explaining than I am. I'm shaking right now. Bill Kincaid and yeah, just went brain dead. They're both on here anyway. Walden. So I would appreciate if you gave them the time.
They'll have an opportunity. Okay.
Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Does anyone on council have questions for the applicant?
You'll have to talk louder because I can't hear.
I have a question.
Councilor Engel.
Why are you choosing to build it bigger?
Why did I need to
No,
build it?
no, I said, why are you choosing to build it bigger this time?
Because of those holes on the backside, it's open ground, so it won't take that much dirt or that much cement away. But on the front side, we have to cut into the blacktop and the cement to move those down. We have the cement to take away and blacktop will both have to be cleaned all out. So to do that, we're stripping the ground up to felt that we needed to move it 2 feet forward or to the front. That make it.
So you're not building exactly what you had before?
It's not exactly, but what I'm trying to do is instead of building a 32 by 60, I'm trying to help out the city and myself by only going 57, but maybe instead of 32, going to 34. So I can get the same square footage. I actually ended up with 18 square footage just because of the blacktop and the cement. That makes sense?
Sort of. I've tried not to spend a lot of time looking at your property so that I could be a little bit more impartial. So it sort of makes sense. And Mr. Mann, why are you choosing to build such a large building?
Why am I making such a large building?
Yeah, I mean, why are you choosing to build such a large building?
Well, because of the wildfire, I thought I would be back the next night, and I didn't. It took my house, it took my shop, it took my snowmobiles, it took my side-by-side, it took my travel trailer, it took my pontoon boat, and another $60,000, $78,000 of miscellaneous stuff.
So what you're saying is this, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, so make sure that I'm saying it correctly. So what you're saying is this shop is actually a very large garage as such, where you store all of your toys, your RV, your.
It will have all
pontoon.
my toys that I had
Okay,
before.
so that's, okay. That's what
I'm
I
just
need.
trying to replace what I lost.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Keith. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll now ask if there's anyone who wishes to testify in support of the application. This will be a chance for the people that Mr. Munn brought.
Yeah. Mayor Trett, my name is Jeff Waldine. I'm the project manager for Keith Munn. My address is P.O. Box 20727, Kaiser, Oregon 97307. To expand upon what Keith was trying to say, and especially addressing Commissioner Engel, the size. Okay, so Keith had a need for this size of building. We're trying to get it as close back to what it was as we possibly can. So in doing this, I went to Pole Barn Engineer Alliance here in Salem that specializes in this, and I did a pre-engineering meeting with one of their engineers, told them the situation. And so what we ended up doing was taking the original plan, which we had, thank heavens, Keith still had his plans, and it showed all of those boreholes, and some of them were up to 30 inches across. Okay, so realize that that's a 30-inch hole with a post in it, anchored in with the great big cement block at the bottom, and whether it's filled with concrete or gravel, it's substantial. And so to go back in the exact same footprint and remove all those, because the pole barn construction is going to do it the exact same way, they'd have to go into the same holes. And basically the engineer just said that's going to be seriously a hot mess to try to dig all that out and then compact the soil enough to re-drill the holes and put everything in. So what he suggested is, he says, you just need to move that, you need to do an offset, both in dimension, okay, and where all those poles go. So we did a drawing over the top of it, and I think that's what McCray has as an exhibit, okay, to where all those holes would be offset enough to where we would not disturb anything below the ground to destabilize the ground. And he thought that was the absolute best solution to this. So the actual dimensions are really driven more by that offset than the actual size or square footage. This is how far we needed to move away and to do the shift to get far enough away from those original boreholes to put the building up. So that was the probably the biggest deciding factor on what the new building looks like, is what we could smartly do without messing up what's below the ground.
Mayor Tritt, I have a question.
Councilman Engel.
Jeff, thank you for that explanation. So if I understand right, what you're saying is that you chose to move it out towards the street, so it's 9 feet from the street, rather than choosing to move these holes that you want to bore in further than 15 feet from the street. Is that correct?
Yes, Commissioner Engel, because we are up against the setback. To put the offset the other way, we'd be on top of the drain field.
If you built it the same size, if you make the shop, pole barn, toy holder, whatever you want to call it, smaller, you could in fact move it 15 feet in and more from the street. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct, but it wouldn't meet the customer's needs.
Or his wants. Thank you.
Or his wants.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other testimony in support of the application? Counselor, or Mrs. Rule, sorry about, I remember calling Counselor Rule. Yeah, if you, okay, and And Debbie, if you give us your name and address.
Sit right here and your face will be right in this window.
Hi, my name is Debbie Rule. We are full-time residents at 125 Millgard Court in Detroit. I just have to say, Keith's shop was full, and to me, he's just trying to replace what he had. And if the size offends you, or I mean, that just doesn't make any sense to me. It's Keith's property. He had the shop. He probably would have actually liked it bigger. And I just don't see the issue with the size. I mean, if he's just trying to put what he had before the fire's back. And because of county rules about the disturbed soil, he has to move it a little bit. And that's a dead end road. And they measured it kind of catty corner instead of straight out. He would have 15 feet if they went straight out, and he'd have the side distance that he needed. But for some reason, and I know McCray might have tried to explain it, they went catty corner, but it is a dead end street. Nobody goes on that road unless they're going to see Keith. He's just trying to replace what he had before the fire. And it's crazy to me that he's even having to go through this process for a variance that's costing him more money just to get back what he had. It's his right, in my opinion, you know, to put back what he had. And I just hope that the council will bear that in mind and let him rebuild. He'll pay his tax bill, as I pointed out to the planning commission. We need the money. It's a great way to get revenue, and I just beg you to please pass this. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions of council? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else who wishes to testify in support of the application? Hearing and seeing nobody, I will now ask if there is anyone who wishes to testify in opposition to the application. Anyone who wishes to testify in opposition to the application? Hearing none, we'll move on. We'll now ask if there's anyone who wishes to testify who is neutral on the application. Is there anyone who wishes to testify who is neutral on this application? Hearing none, we'll move along. Does the applicant wish to provide any rebuttal evidence or testimony? Keith, you have anything else for us?
Yes.
Come on over.
I forget what Ms. McCray called it, how I'm being affected by the property. If it were a normal square piece of property, I'd have all kinds of property. But the problem is at the front of my property, and it comes at an angle, goes to 22, it keeps me from getting at 15 feet. When I originally built, I originally wanted to go 40 by 60. But we couldn't do that because of that street. And all I'm trying to do is replace what I had lost in the wildfires. And because of that street takes an angle through my property, or my property's angle because of that street, I'm unable to meet your setbacks. I'm just asking for a variance. I'm still on my own property. I'm just asking for 9 feet variance instead of 15. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions?
Any questions? Okay. Does staff have any information to provide in response to the applicant's testimony or evidence, or any other testimony or evidence we have received today?
I would just like to reiterate that this variance is for setbacks, and within the RS zone, there is a lot coverage of 60%. And the applicant within his proposal is not, not close to that 60% in terms of the entire lot size. So I just wanted to share that with you all as you're considering the size of his accessory structure. While I shared the dimensions and what the size are so that you have those pieces of information, I just wanted to clarify that for you all.
Chair Tritt, I have one more question, if I may,
Councilor Engel?
of Ms. Carmichael. I want to be clear and make sure that we have clarification that the cost of a building or a cost of doing something is not declared, that is not actually considered a hardship. Is that correct?
Yes. The cost, the financial hardship is not a criteria that you all are making a decision based on. That is not part of the criteria, and that you should not be making a decision on financial hardship.
Thank you.
The 6 criteria that are in the staff report that I read through each one and talked about staff findings, it being self-imposed, the site constraints, the topography, those are the elements that you all are basing your findings on this evening. Councilor Engel, thank you.
Thank you.
And the planning commission did give a due pass recommendation on this. Is that
Sorry,
correct?
can you ask that again, Jim?
The
Mayor Pat?
commission did provide a due pass recommendation on this.
Yes, the planning commission did vote and recommended approval to the council.
At this time, we'll consider closing the public hearing. Before I do that, I ask council and staff if there's any reason why public hearing on this.
Mr. Mayor,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to add something, and I'm only using this as an opportunity because it's the first time that this issue has come up since I've been here with you. So generally, there are 2 different types of land use issues that you'll deal with as city council. You have legislative and you have quasi judicial. Okay, legislative means you take a look at the situation and you decide what you feel is best for the community. On a quasi judicial case, in which this is, you sit as a judge and you have to make your determination based on the criteria within the land use decision, okay? Whether you like it or not. So I just wanted to push that out there for you so that you understand your role. You are acting in this capacity as a judge. So there was one other thing I wanted to bring up. Oh, ex parte communications, ex parte contacts, and conflicts of interest. And this is for future. So a conflict of interest is typically considered a pecuniary conflict of interest, which means that you or a family member stands to have a financial benefit because of the decision. So that would create an actual conflict of interest. If you own property that is being affected by the decision you're getting ready to make, that would be a conflict of interest. And ex parte communication is any conversation you have had with anybody, including yourselves or each other, or if you actually listened in to the planning commission meeting. That could also be considered a ex parte communication because you were, or reading a newspaper or anything that provided you information in advance of this hearing. So just for future, make sure that you are really, really filtering and thinking about all contexts you've had when identifying an ex parte contact. So thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you. Is there any council or staff who believes the public hearing should be continued to a future meeting? Hearing no desire to keep the public meeting open, I will close the public hearing at 6:39 on variance 20-01. Pursuant to ORS 197.7636E, the applicant has the right to submit final written argument that will be included in the record. This submission must be made within 7 days and may not contain new evidence. The submission must only contain written argument. If the submission contains any new evidence, the council will reject the new evidence and only consider the written argument. The applicant also has the right to waive the submission of final written argument. If the applicant does not waive the submission of final written argument, the council will not be able to make a final determination on the application tonight. Does the applicant wish to waive the submission of final written argument? You do want to waive it if you, I understand that. So Keith, what it's saying here is if you don't want to do a written argument, if you don't want to do a written argument, then just say yes and go ahead and vote. Okay, thank you. The applicant is waiving the applicant's right to submit a final argument. Accordingly, this matter is now in the order for the Detroit City Council to discuss variance 21-01. Is there any discussion on the variance on the proposal?
I've got something to say.
Tisdale.
After Chris Epley said that this is quasi judicial, I did listen in on the planning commission meeting, but I don't feel it'll affect my right to vote. And next time I will. So I just want to let you know.
Great, thank you.
And I did too. Yes.
Sancho.
Mayor Chet,
Okay.
I'd,
Luke.
so I'd like to comment that I did not listen to the planning commission meeting. I do not know what this property is. However, based on the recommendation from the planning commission, based on it meets all the criteria for less than 60% coverage, based on it's similar in fact in the footprint of what the original was, only varying by my understanding 38 square feet, and that it does not adversely affect in any way traffic or pedestrian. I see that it meets every criteria, and would just like to state that I see no negative reason why that it wouldn't.
Thank you, Councilor Rick. Anybody else? Any other discussion? Council President Engel.
I move the Detroit City Council adopt the staff report on variance 21-01 and approve variance 21-01.
Have a motion, Councilor Engel, to approve the staff report and on variance 2101 and approve variance 2101. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Councilor Smith. Any discussion? It is moved and seconded that we approve a report 2101 and approve the variance of 2101. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raise your hand. Please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, abstentions? Motion passes 6-1. Councilor Engel voting nay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mund. Okay. Rental of public office space, City Council packet. Councilor Shepherd has asked the city to consider renting portable office space currently used by various groups in the city of Detroit. Attaches an invoice to the cost of the rental for the office space. The council is open. Will open a public hearing and take testimony on it. Conclusion of testimony, the council will close a public hearing and deliberate on the options available to the city with respect to the rental portable office space. It would then be appropriate for the council to direct staff on the next steps the council wants to have happen. So with that, I'll open a public hearing on the proposal to rent a portable office space at 644. Anybody who wishes to testify in favor? Anyone who wishes to testify in favor? Yeah. Greg?
Concerning Detroit, yeah, I think it'd be a benefit for the community. We have a place to put it. If we have to move it from the school parking lot, we could put it on the lot on Main Street, Elaine's lot. I've been doing a lot of walking around the town lately, and the general opinion that I've gotten is people would definitely get behind something like that, where they could see meetings, and it'd be a good meeting place if you're wanting to meet contractors and that sort of thing, especially in bad weather. And I believe FEMA would pay for it, or there also could be COVID funds that would pay I believe it's $600 a month. So I think most of the people are really behind it.
Any discussion from anybody wishing to testify in favor from the public? Anybody wishing to testify in favor? Hearing none, we'll move on. Does anybody want to testify in opposition to the proposal? Anyone wishing to testify in opposition to the proposal? Hearing none, is there anyone who wishes to testify who is neutral on the proposal? Anyone wishing to testify who is neutral? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing at 6:46. And council, do we have discussion on the proposal?
I'd like to say something.
Councilor Casdale.
From being in the town, I know it's actually something that people are interested in, having an area for remote viewing for the council meetings, people that need help technically or need internet. Also, a gathering place for, like Shep said, or Councilor Shepherd said, for meetings. And I saw you laughing at me, Tim. But seriously, it's a hope that the citizens could use that for more than council meetings, because I know there's a 6-foot distancing that people are concerned about, but it really would help people that don't have access to our council meetings. And I would hope that we could ask Chris to maybe look into see if some of the costs could be covered by FEMA, because they have been in other communities. And that the rental of one of those modulars is at a discounted rate. So I think there's a lot of benefit to this.
Councilor Luke.
Thank you, Mayor Chet. I did laugh at you because I do the same thing, Councilor Tessel. I think this is a great thing. I want to clarify, I think, according talking to Councilor Shepherd, my understanding is that we could just take over this lease for the $600 a month, and it would be a month to month, not a year-long contractual. I want to just clarify that, verify that, and so forth. And then, as she stated too, I think there is the like $25,000 in the COVID fund for communications that I believe that this would fall under for the funding for it. And if both of those are correct, it's already up there. And even if we need to move it a little ways, Elaine DeGeorge has volunteered her lot, that's close to Ripley Wi-Fi. I know that Sandy Elwood also told me that we could put it there if it was okay. And I think it's a great thing to have something up there where we can all go get out of the rain. Like Greg said, if we need to have some meetings with contractors or any inspectors and so forth, because we're still got a lot of construction going on up there and a lot of stuff. And we need a little centralized location where we can go and have a cup of coffee or something and get on a computer with some decent Wi-Fi and so forth. So I really think it'd be a great benefit to the community.
Further discussion? Councilor Page.
Thank you, Mayor Tritt. It's my understanding that possibly Marion County and or the long-term recovery group is in the process of working on something of this nature already. And from my perspective, the city can't take this on financially. If we've got a group coming in that's FEMA related, county related to finance this thing, I'm all for it, but I think there's something that's in the works Chris, do you have any intel on that?
I don't have any intel about that particular aspect of the long-term recovery group. So it's possible. I also am not aware of funding through FEMA that could pay for this, but I haven't researched that, so I can.
So to bring up to speed, there was a meeting with Jody Christensen with the state of Oregon, having some discussion about this, that FEMA was in that meeting as well. And the discussion was had about a resource center. That was on the table, but post that meeting, it was brought to my attention that Marion County was working with the long-term recovery group on just this type of thing. So if this trailer is available and the long-term recovery group wants to, queue in here, if that's what's the process is, I think we should do a little more fact finding on that. So we're not doing a double effort here. Unfortunately, sometimes the lack of communication with some of these things, you got one going here, one going here, when actually, they're all working for the same deal. So I think we should follow up on that, and I'd be happy to get with you and make some phone calls and see if that isn't already in the works.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and I can also check up on it. I know the LTRG is planning on having resources available. They're standing up a committee. I'm not positive that they're actually intending to have a physical location that's in the community 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That doesn't necessarily mean that they wouldn't be able to utilize this kind of structure for when they are there, and would potentially be willing to rent it for that purpose.
Right.
So,
and there was all sorts of things in play as far as staffing it. How's that going to happen? How many days a week is it going to be staffed? There was a lot of moving parts in the early discussion of this, but I think we could take this, try and meld these conversations together and see if we can't make something out of it.
I can certainly do some research for you.
Okay, that's my 2 cents.
Councilor Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. And Councilor Page is correct. The FEMA person that was up there to represent, he did mention a office of this kind of sorts from what he mentioned. The one request that I would have is that if we could get a computer and a printer in there. What I've been running into with some of our residents, they lost all that stuff and they don't have it. So unless they travel back to Albany or travel back to Salem, they can't print off the documents and applications that they need. And I just think it'd make it a lot easier for them to be able to have it in-house in one location for them.
So do I have any further discussion? Councilor Raymond.
Who would pay for a printer and the copier and the toner and the Wi-Fi and the computer and all of that stuff? Would this be a thing that the county is providing to the citizens of Detroit? I'm not clear on the funding of that.
I don't have that answer yet.
I would like, hold on.
If I could.
So I was gonna say the FEMA fund could help with, since we're gonna need the sound system and all that either. Maybe, a printer's $100. They're not that expensive. There's ways of making this happen. I think if we can get an office or a modular of such for an office, so.
But the question still is out there. All of these things, including staffing and the heat and the light and the sewer and the water, who will be paying for all of this? So it's a question that is asked and that we will need an answer to before we can make any decisions. My second question is the free modular building in Sweet Home. What is the status of that?
We've notified them that we probably can't use it because we don't really have a place to put it.
Okay.
They did say, talking to Chris, they have more than one person interested in it.
Good.
And so we're not sticking them with something that they've been working on. My understanding is they have several people who would love to have it, and we just don't have a place for it. So, yeah, I'm gonna. Oh, Councilor Luke, I'm sorry.
Um,
Every time I look, nobody's got their hand up.
I'm not certain either, Chris, about the funding for this. I do know we had a substantial amount of insurance money for office stuff and so forth, and I know that it's paying for our office at this point. I guess the question is there money still available there to take care of some of this or not? Second off, I have a HP printer sitting here that I'm looking for somebody that wants it, works perfect, and I'll donate it. I'll also pay for 1 month's rent out of my own pocket if it's not reimbursed, so that we don't lose it and we can have something up there for the people. As far as staffing, don't know that it needs to be staffed necessarily other than opened or closed. So volunteers we're probably going to have to take care of that, I would assume. And I know there's a number of people up there that will, including Greg, who's been up there 12 days straight. Elaine DeGeorge did offer to pay for the power for it earlier tonight, and put it on her lot. So there won't be any restroom facilities or sewer stuff, obviously. So electrical's paid for. I believe the Ziply covers is giving us free Wi-Fi. I could be wrong about that, but it seems like the cost is really minimal for something that's there right now, ready to roll and go. And then even if it's just for a month or 2 or 3 until we could work something out with, like Councilor Page said, which I wasn't aware of that wildfire situation we're talking about, or Todd, Councilor Smith. I think that's great, especially if we could just put that in place and then they could take that over. It might make their job a lot easier too, because we have it set up there. We have a printer there for people to use and so forth. And that's what I'm really concerned about, is the here and now. We keep, this just seems like a really great idea. It's really affordable. It's already there. And I think there's probably monies to come up with to pay for this. I'd be willing to, a lot of people would donate to just cover it, because they really need this up there right now. So just my 2 cents.
Okay, I'd like to recommend that we pass this to staff to look at funding. Is FEMA money available? Is insurance money available? And do those kinds of things. I know the school district isn't in a hurry to get it back. They have their new facility down below, so I think they're not going to be in a hurry to move it away. So I think we have time to play with that. So I would entertain a motion to direct staff to look into the use of this facility.
Possibility of either using the current building or another one, if that seems more reasonable, as a temporary office facility landing pad.
Have a motion, Councilor Page, to direct staff to look into the usability of the rentable portable office space. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Councilor Shepherd. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Abstentions. Motion passes unanimously. Moving along to resolutions, orders, and administrative action. A, resolution number 619, authorizing the city of Detroit to purchase cluster mailboxes. Kelly? Didn't I? I thought I did. I closed the public hearing. Yes, I did. I thought I did. Okay. Okay, so I did. So I closed the public hearing at 6:59 p.m. Moving along, resolution 619, resolution authorizing the city of Detroit to purchase cluster mailboxes. This is a request, an ask from the post office. Request some cluster mailboxes for placing in the city at a cost of $1,400 plus for the purchase of these. As I see it, 16 mailboxes with 2 larger ones. Do I have a motion? Is there discussion? Kelly, I'm sorry. You have input on this?
Much the same information as we've had before, except that I did find out that from CPI, Billy Terry, that the post office has been able to get electricity for quite some time now, like October, according to Billy Terry from CPI. And so I did call and let Patty know. She is the postmaster. It's just a matter of getting electricity hooked up. They just have to go in and hook it up, and then they'll be able to go in and clean. And after that, they should be able to be opened. They need to clean it.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah.
And I was in Mill City yesterday picking up my mail, asked the clerk there, and she said that the appointment has been made for the power to be restored. They will be cleaning and aren't really, should open up fairly quickly after that. So,
Well,
staff recommendation.
she also did say, Patty said that, made a mention that if we did reopen the Detroit post office, then the people that are displaced right now would have to come to Detroit or for one or the other to wherever they are right now. And then, we do have boxes in the post office.
Discussion.
Mayor Trent?
Councilor Tisdale.
So this originally came up because some businesses didn't accept our mail if it was going to a post office box. And the person in the post office was could cross-check and would put our addressed mail to our PO box, and they're not allowed to do that anymore. And you had that in the packet. I don't have the packet, and I forgot it. But I still would like for the council to consider the cluster mailboxes. I did get a message from Lakeview RV Park, Tracy Bowen. They said that they could donate one of the cluster mailboxes. They found one on Craigslist to cut costs, and her husband could install it. But that would still only leave us 16 mailboxes, and I'm sure there's a few more people that might like to have an actual address there. So I don't know if anybody looked into using those mailboxes, the funds from a grant from the COVID funds, to see if that could help pay, but there's still that issue that we can't receive. They will not give our home address mail into a PO box anymore. It will be returned. So that's a hardship for the full-time residents.
How would we rent those boxes out then? Because it wouldn't be like a box that's in the post office where the key gets locked and you walk away from it.
Yeah, you get your own key, just like a neighborhood. Like
yeah.
And the neighborhood we live in now.
So we would have to rent them.
Well, I don't know. I mean, once it's purchased, and the mail person just puts it in the box, just like in any neighborhood. It's not even a rent. It's just, it gets put on a city-owned property, and then the citizens benefit from that.
So let me clarify. So
Councilor Engel.
So there's 16 spots. Who decides who gets a spot?
I guess it's first come, first serve. I mean, if there's a certain amount of residents in the city and some don't think they need it, then they don't do it.
And if there's 29,
does that mean all the rest cannot have a mailbox with an address?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking the question. How do you determine, and who determines who gets those 16 slots if they want a physical mailing, physical mailing address versus a post office box? And city certainly will not be renting it, because that is United States Postal Service circumstances that they would have to figure out how that's going to work. So that was my question. If there's more than 16 that want a mailing address, how would that be handled? And who is going to be the decider? Would that be the post office?
No, the post office won't own them. It will be the people, just like in a neighborhood. If you, in your neighborhood, if you have a cluster mailbox, the post office just delivers the mail. They don't own the boxes. Like you own your own mailbox.
Yeah.
So then, I mean, if we need to discuss it further because we're concerned we can't serve 100% of the people, maybe we get some more. I'm willing to pay money or to add into one of these. And I know Tracy Boland is willing to donate a whole box. I know that when I talked to the postmaster, they cannot take a left off of Highway 22. They can only take a right and come towards the post office. So they can't go drop off mail in their neighborhoods, but they can drop off mail in a cluster box anywhere on the main street, anywhere. It doesn't have to be city-owned property. It's just like a neighborhood buying a post office box. Or, I mean, buying the mailboxes.
Thank you.
So will the post office allow us to put them on their property?
Well, I asked the post office about that property where the post office sits, and they said the city owns it. So mailboxes can be put there, and there's a few other people that have mentioned that one can be put on their property. So that's what I found out.
I guess, Councilor Smith.
So I personally, the cluster box, I think the one that Mr. and Mrs. Boland are willing to donate, I think is a no-brainer for us. I think personally, $1,400 for another cluster when the post office could have been open or had at least had electricity since October, is I think someone needs to get on the USPS and get their facility open as soon as possible. I mean, this is 7 months and we're finding out they could have been open in October, or electricity in October. That's, I mean, I find that kind of kicking the can down the road on their part. It's to use a term from Mr. Page.
And
Chat.
Further, Councilor Page.
I'd just like to throw a comment in on it. And look, I don't mean to be a wet blanket on providing more for the citizens up there of Detroit, but the city getting any closer in the business of the mail business or getting wrapped up in that is, I think, tenuous at best. You're talking about a federal, the federal government is involved in the mail, you know. I don't know where the city of Detroit falls within that guideline. If we go sticking a box in the ground up there, we're almost actually saying that we're getting involved with that. I think further research in this to make completely certain that if we get a box given to us or whatever, it's imperative that we make certain that whatever we're allowing there is not going to hang the city out. And that's beyond that. I'm fine with it, but spending any money right now for it, or much less saying go forth, unless we have a reasonable set of guidelines as to what we're getting ourselves into as the city, I can't go forward.
One more comment.
Councilor Tesdale.
I talked to the postmaster, and it's a mailbox. It doesn't tie the city to anything. It could be put on somebody else's property along the same street. So it's as if the mail is dropped off in a mailbox and it's on somebody's property. It doesn't have to be on the city's. The city's not liable. It's like us getting our mail at home. So the postmaster was very helpful when I talked to her about that. And when I talked to her last month, or the first time this got brought up, and I don't know if it was last month, she actually said there was no power. So I don't know which is true, if there was none and she didn't know when it was showing up because it came from her, or if it's been on since October. So I would ask her before we think that it was on since October.
Mayor Trent.
Councilor Luke.
So as I was reading through the packet in the earlier too, it's the postmaster that made the recommendation for this. So I understand the concern, as Council Page brought up, but I wanted to point that out, that it was actually the post office that made the recommendation. So I don't see where we're on the hook for that. And I really want to have a box up there for residents. But it's hard because that's not our responsibility as a city. It's their responsibility as the postmaster. But maybe now that we have an interim city manager, he can put a little bit of pressure on the post office, just asking, or somebody. I mean, somebody needs to get to somebody and quit kicking it down the road. I get it. They want us to pay for it. They don't want to get their building cleaned up. I think I could get CPI to get power there, to be honest with you. I got them to get power in a lot of places if you can just stay on it. So I don't know, but I'm tired of kicking it down the road. I'm tired of being negative about it or looking negative, because I know there are residents that really need it. But what can we do to get the post office to get it taken care of? Because it is their responsibility, not ours. If there's any evidence other than that, I want to see it. And so I think all of us are going back and forth because we want to help the citizens. We want to do it. It costs money to get it. Why isn't the post office doing it? Seems like so simple. They waste so much money as it is. Why can't they actually do something good? $1,500, put a cluster mailbox in there for everybody.
Okay, further discussion before. Yeah, I'm just very quickly, my concern here is who maintains it if it breaks. If a lock breaks, who has to fix it? I agree with everybody. The only reason I lean or have any interest in doing this is because of that, as Councilor Tesdale mentioned about some places won't mail things to the post office box. I think that's ridiculous in today's world. But that's the only reason I'm torn with this. Other than that, I agree with everybody else. It's up to the post office. And I'm wondering why they just can't put them in, rent them out, whatever they want to do. And go from there.
Mayor Trent?
I will say my conversation was yesterday with the post office in Mill City, and they said the appointment has been made to hook power up. So that should be coming ASAP very soon. Councilor Engel.
Mayor Trent, I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead. Councilor.
Well, okay. I heard like a fire alarm and it startled me. I'd like to make a motion that we decline the request to purchase this cluster mailbox by the United States Postal Service.
Have a motion, Councilor Tesdale, to
Or
go ahead.
Councilor Engel.
Councilor Engel, I'm sorry. Have a motion, Councilor Engel, to deny the request of the post office to install cluster mailbox. Any discussion? Councilor Smith. Second, Councilor Smith. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Same sign. Abstentions? Motion passes. We will decline the offer. Thank you.
I want to say something. I believe they have a transformer at the post office now.
Yeah, Shep, I was, like I said, I talked to him yesterday and they said it's scheduled and they should have it within just a very short amount of time. Okay, resolution B, resolution number 620, authorizing a loan from the Special Public Works Fund. Councilor or Kelly.
This would be came from our finance officer. This is, I believe, is for Business Oregon. It's a 0% loan to cover any items that are not covered by insurance. You read it, it says, um, okay, it says here, on such terms may be agreed upon between the officer and OBDD on the condition that the principal amount of the loan from the OBDD to the recipient is not in excess of 239,645 and an interest rate of 0. The finance contract provides that if the Federal Emergency Management Agency provides disaster funding for the project at the rate of 75% of cost, that FEMA funding will be paid to OBDD as a mandatory loan repayment, and the remaining 25% loan principal federally required as a local match will be discharged by OBDD and automatically converted into a grant. Proceeds of the loan from the OBDD will be applied solely to the cost of the project, as such term is defined in the financing contract. So basically, it's going to be paying for that isn't covered by insurance. And then at the end, the 25% will be forgiven. And 75 will, FEMA will pay federal.
So what I understand, we talked about this earlier, and I think Matt has referred to this as a bridge loan.
Yes.
To get money in here now so that when FEMA pays that, it goes back to them to pay off the loan. Anything that isn't paid by FEMA, then they grant. So do I have a motion?
Mayor Trent,
Councilor Engel.
I make a motion that we, how do I state this? That we enter into a financial contract with the state of Oregon and accept this resolution grant to authorize a loan from the Special Public Works Fund.
Have a motion, Councilor Engel, to adopt Resolution 620 of the City of Detroit authorizing a loan from the Special Public Works Fund. Second?
Second.
Second, Councilor Tesdale. Discussion? Councilor Page?
I just want some clarification if I could on this. One is the amount being $239,645, not in excess. What, that sounds like we've got a stop point on this. How did that number, how did we land at that number? And what if our numbers end up being significantly bigger that we would need here? Are we going to be, deadlocked into this contract at a specified number that would keep us from being able to, is this enough of a bridge to get where we've got to get to? That's where I'm coming from, and I'm trying to get an idea as to where that number came from.
Matt, DeMarco, is that something that you can answer?
Yeah, so that number was generated. So basically what's currently under this loan right now is it's the work up at Mackey Creek, and which is a relatively small part of it. The vast majority of this is for filling, flushing, sampling, and disinfecting the system. The vast majority of it is actually going to pay it part of Highland's work just to get the water system cleared of contaminants before it got up. So I would say, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it's about 40 to 50% of this is actually already invoiced. So this would pay back what's already invoiced. That's why it's fairly specific, is we have invoices for close to half of it. The other half, and so I've talked with Michelle Bilberry, I think it is, Michelle Bilberry, with Business Oregon. And so the program that is
use the 25% local match is also going to be the Special Public Works grant. Well, that's one of the primary funds that cities typically use with FEMA. And that is so, and it's a little confusing, so I apologize if it isn't clear, but this is considered an emergency version of that same grant, and it's basically something they pass through quickly to get the initial expenses paid for. And then once you're out of that emergency where you just need money coming in the door, it kind of turns into the greater Special Public Works Fund grant. And that has a maximum allotment of, I believe they have it currently capped at $500,000, which would be about $2 million FEMA project. My initial conversations with Michelle is that they're looking at ways to expand that. Just because there are cities like Detroit that suffered a little bit more damage than typically a lot of the local Oregon FEMA projects cover. So they are looking at expanding that, but right now the greater Special Public Works grant is upwards of $500,000. So there is more that we can go after if need be. But
we're not locked in.
We're locked into this part as like the emergency, but
Okay.
there is more grant fund afterwards. And actually FEMA's not really far behind on catching up. So, I mean, FEMA's working to clear that project now. So honestly, you won't even carry this loan for very long before FEMA comes in.
So just as an overview, if I'm understanding this right, this is housekeeping money. This is money that we basically owe HBH, Highland. We've got stuff that's happened in emergency status. We need some housekeeping money to get our books square, get you guys paid. And this is kind of on the beginning phase of this to get the playing field level.
Correct. And so
Okay.
it's just a little bit more detail on it. It's not, it's a very specific use right now. You can use it for other things if you wanted to, but right now Business Oregon was very strict on generating the application because they want to be able to convert this to a grant at the end. So when we submitted the application, what we had to do was basically we had to show proof of a prior existing FEMA project so that Business Oregon knew that this is something FEMA is already going to cover. We know that the money's just not there yet.
Sure.
So then they took record of those projects that we are requesting prior assistance for. So if you, I guess basically we only want to use this for those items, the Mackey Creek and the flushing and sampling work. We can expand, my understanding with Michelle, and I'll get further clarification from her on this, but my understanding with Michelle is that we can expand the grant, but they want to get the projects cleared by FEMA first. And they want that prior clearing from FEMA so that they can make that it will become a grant at the end of this.
Right.
And not that the city's stuck with a loan.
Okay. Well, I think that clarifies for me what I needed to know, and it makes sense, and I understand it now. So I don't have any further question there. Thanks.
I had one question.
Councilor
for you,
Engel.
Matt. So as you know, I sit in all these FEMA water meetings week after week after week. And so when I was reading this, the resolution said, the purpose of the contract is to finance the reconstruction of the City of Detroit's water system. And I'm like, how the heck are we going to do that for $240,000? Like, because I've been hearing, millions for months. So to be fair, the resolution was very confusing. So this is just for exactly what you've been explaining. And it doesn't even begin to touch that giant thing that we're looking at for the permanent water treatment further on into our agenda. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Okay. Further discussion on this? Can I have a motion? Do we have a motion? Okay, do I have a motion? Do I have a motion? Thank you.
Mayor Trent, I'd like to make a motion that we accept resolution number 620 to enter into a financing contract with the state of Oregon.
Have a motion, Council Engel, to adopt resolution 620 of the city of Detroit authorizing a loan from the Special Public Works Fund. Second.
Second.
Esnero, discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Abstentions, motion passes unanimously. Item C, permanent water system discussion. Turn this over to Chris and Matt.
Thanks, and I'll start off. I just wanted to get some direction from the city council because the city has been discussing a number of different ways to bring back the permanent water supply. One being putting the sand filters that are currently up there back into operation. In looking at the sand filters in relation to the watershed, it's very likely that the watershed, having been burned and disturbed for the next 3 to 4 or 5 years, perhaps, is going to be too volatile to utilize the sand filters efficiently. They have a very narrow operating window within which they perform really, really well. And so my proposal to you is that we formally embrace the direction of approaching FEMA to get them to support a request for alternative technology, because typically FEMA will only pay to bring back exactly what you had to operating condition. But there are some, they do have some ability under some of their guidelines, if you can prove that it's not feasible to use what you had going forward for a period of time that makes sense for the community, that they will fund alternative technology. And so I am asking for the council to basically provide direction that we embrace the approach of going after a mechanical treatment system to replace the 350 gallons per minute that the sand filters are spec'd to produce, and then keep the sand filters in place and rehab them at a later time once the watershed stabilizes and they can be used more efficiently. They can be at 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 years down the road. You can replace the sand medium and put them back in line in parallel to your new mechanical system and end up with potentially over 700 gallons a minute between the two systems, which would get you well out past 30 years planning horizon for the community. So that's the goal. It is more expensive for FEMA to go that direction, and they need to have a reason to do so. And so Matt and I have been working on that reason. And I think we're close in talking to Lee Thomas, who is our FEMA advocate. He's really going to bat for us and believes that there is hope. There may be the possibility that I would have to come to you in the future and say, FEMA simply refuses to go that direction, then we'll have to figure out a different route. But I think that there's an opportunity, if we stand behind it, to get FEMA to change technologies for us and get us a better system. And Matt, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I think you covered it pretty well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you need a vote on that, or can we just do it by consensus?
Consensus is fine. I just wanted to make sure that I'm not pushing a different direction than the council's comfortable with.
Do I have consensus that we want them to proceed with what they're doing? Okay, we have consensus, so yes, please do. And thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Tread, I would just like to say that
Councilor Engel.
I actually did read this whole thing. I actually sat down with it all day today and read it. And I want to thank both Matt and Chris that it was very easy to understand. It was comprehensive. It was comprehensible. And for those of us who might be really silly about some of these things sometimes, I thoroughly understood it, and thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. And I will say that Matt is doing an excellent job on this.
Yeah. Yes, he is.
Nice job, Matt.
I agree with Shelley. I was reading through it. I'm like, who wrote this? I appreciate it. And I think it was Rob Henry. I'm not sure, but I know that it took a lot of people putting it together, and I read through it as well. And so completely understood get how FEMA works. So thanks to HBH. Appreciate you guys.
And if I could, I'd also like to give a shout out to Lee Thomas, our our FEMA guy, he has really gone to bat for us with his superiors on more than one occasion, and he's just been great to work with. So, on the record, I want to thank him. Moving along to item number 8, item D, restrictive covenant discussion. McCray, sorry to keep you this late. McCray, are you there?
I'm here. Sorry, let me open it back up. So tonight, I wanted to bring forward a restrictive, it's called a restrictive covenant. The county is giving it another title, but the reason behind it, what we're looking at. So we currently have in our land development code, land divisions, applications for property line adjustments. And since the fires, I have processed 7 property line adjustments that are for property owners who needed to consolidate 2 lots, either because that they found out that their septic is crossing the property line, or that their building was built over the property line along the way. Some of the applicants and property owners, and maybe even some people listening, are having the same issue, that you discover that at one point people consolidated their lots for tax purposes, but that didn't remove the property lines, and so that people will have 2 separate lots. And there's building code requirements that you can't build over a property line. And so the property line adjustment has been the process that we've been bringing applicants through. What that entails is they make an application. The application is fairly straightforward. It's a type 1 land use application. It takes a couple weeks to process because I have to send notice out to other agencies for comments. It costs $350. That seems straightforward enough, but the next step is you have to hire a surveyor to replat or for lots that were created through a subdivision or partition, create that outside boundary. And so I started talking with other counties in the state and other cities, and came across this process that Lane County in particular has been using for 11 years. It's called a restrictive covenant. And what it does is it establishes the outside boundary for building purposes. So this can't resolve all issues for people who are listening and counselors. But it's just one more tool for property owners in Detroit to have. So what it would do is a property owner who owns 2 pieces of property, whether, you know, I own lot, just 2 separate lots. I'm sorry to not be able to jump in with a quick address or example, but you own 2 different lots. We would establish that outside boundary for building purposes. You would record this document at the county clerk's office. And essentially this document says, for all purposes, while this building that you're coming in for building permit for exists on the land, you cannot separate those 2 properties. You cannot sell one lot. They have to stay together. And so for purposes of future purchases, it'll show up on a deed search if someone was looking to buy someone's land. But what it affords right now is twofold. One, it eliminates this PLA process and the hiring of a surveyor, so some costs and time, a timely process. The county's working hard, I'm working hard to service people, but it still just takes time to process these things. The covenant will be shorter, a shorter timeline of essentially you get both your deeds for lot 1 and lot 2, you attach them to this document and you would go and record it. In a longer range planning idea, I also appreciate the opportunity that this covenant provides for the citizens of Detroit, that we have the sewer authority project, and when sewer arrives in Detroit, the sewer system, at a future date, not right now, but sometime down the line, we've preserved those 2 tax lots, and that there are 2 buildable lots for a future date, even though for purposes of right now, someone does the covenant and establishes that outside boundary. So it both serves an immediate need for some potential redevelopment for property owners or development. That's the discussion before y'all now. But also preserves future development opportunity and a buildable land inventory. So the question, I brought this to Planning Commission last week. They had a great discussion. This currently, it's in draft form. We're working out, I am just working out some of the issues with procedural with the county staff right now. But for all purposes, if someone has a building right now that burnt down in the fire that's over the property line, this covenant is available to them. The conversation that I wanted to bring to council is the policy choice to allow this covenant to be available to not only property owners who are impacted by the fire, but all property owners who have this issue that they have 2 lots. And just having this in our toolbox of options, that this is one thing that someone could do. So with that, can I answer questions? Hopefully I was clear.
Any questions from Craig? So tonight we're not taking action. You're going to come back with a formal proposal.
No, I would love direction from you all this evening that you adopt a policy that we will use this covenant for property owners throughout the city of Detroit. That we would, establish a timeline, maybe of a year. I can come back and tell you how this has worked, how it's gone, how many people have decided to utilize it. Or at this point, you can determine that we only this is only applicable for property owners impacted by the fire and is only a tool that we want to use for people who lost their homes and their house was over the property line. So there's 2 options. One, this restrictive covenant in its draft form is a tool that we've worked with the county. I've been working with the county with to allow someone not to have to do a lot of consolidation, because the building official cannot sign off on a non-conforming structure that was built over a property line. So this covenant will allow someone coming in now whose structure was built over the property line to be able to rebuild. The building official will allow that. The question to you all is, from a policy standpoint, would you like to allow all property owners access to this covenant?
So, McCray, if I might
Councilor
ask a
Engel?
question. So I have seen a couple of building permit requests where the property owners owns 2 pieces of adjacent property and they're absolutely building their house smack down the middle of their 2 property lines. So is this to a certain extent also what you're trying to address?
Yes.
So it's not so much that their house was creeping over a property line, it's that they are intentionally building smack dab in the middle of their 2 properties that they currently own.
Well, maybe to clarify, so what I've seen to date are people coming in who lost their homes to the fire and when they go and they get their property descriptions, they realize where their house was located and it was either near or substantially completely straddling a property line, right? And building code requires that you would have to have a firewall essentially on that property line where the building is being. And so what this allows right now is for those people who want to come back and be able to build just like they were, just where their footprint was, to be able to do that. Because otherwise the building official over at the county is saying, this is a land use issue. I can't sign off on the building permit until that property line goes away. And then start the property line adjustment and the lot consolidation process. So that's been the response so far. But just in the past couple months, with a lot of research with other counties and communities, the county and I come to this conclusion that we could use this, and that the building official could use this. But the question, in a broader statement, Councilor Engel, is if someone comes in now who wasn't impacted by the fire, or was, but just wants to build different, do we want to allow this as a process for people to use? And that's the question before you.
Counselor Page.
Thank you.
McCray, Counselor Page here. What would be the pitfall of doing this? Is there one? I mean, I'm looking at it. I read it and I'm like, well, this seems to clean up a lot of, problems and streamline a lot of things for somebody that owns 2 lots and is just gonna, condense it, and they're making an agreement that, look, as long as the building there, that line is essentially erased. In the future, if the building disappears, they return to 2 lots until you change the lot line. This seems like a simple way to just clean up a lot of that.
Yeah, what it does is afford an opportunity right now to eliminate some process and timing and fees. That property line remains. The pitfall is, hypothetically, someone comes in at a future date and buys a house, doesn't do a deed search, buys a lot, buys one of those lots, and finds that there's a house on the lot they just purchased, right? That would be what I would offer, would be the pitfall.
Is there, do you know, is there any insurance restrictions that come into play? You've got a structure on 2 lots.
Well, that's where, this is really where the building administrator at the county has not been able to sign off, even though from a land use perspective, we have our non-conforming structures, the sunset ordinance that you all did a few months ago that allows those structures to be built back. He can't, because he's got building code requirements that you cannot have a building. So I caution me speaking to insurance, but I'm just giving the one thing that I would offer is the flaw, if any, is that idea of someone potentially selling a property to someone and not knowing.
Just as a counterpoint, the benefit that this actually provides, in addition to being simpler and more cost effective right now and into the future, is that it preserves lots. So instead of going and doing a lot consolidation where you actually are combining multiple lots and creating one, this keeps 2 individual tax lots. So if at some point in the future, the city does have access to sanitary sewer, and you now can build on smaller lots because you don't need a septic field, you have available those tax lots as a community and as individuals to be able to develop on. So it preserves those and keeps you from having to lose tax lots through consolidation.
So what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, is we need a motion to accept this covenant with restrictions to people who were impacted by the fire, or accept this covenant for all lots in the city of Detroit.
That's correct.
Do I have one of those motions?
I'll make that motion that we accept the equitable servitude recital. Is that what we're calling this? Is a
Sure.
Restrictive covenant.
Restrictive covenant to all properties in Detroit.
Have a motion, Councilor Page, to accept the restrictive covenant to all properties in the city of Detroit. Second, Councilor Tesdale. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Abstentions. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, everybody. Council reports.
Thank you, McRae.
Yeah, council
Thanks,
reports.
McRae.
Let's start with Councilor Page. Pick up your microphone.
I'm on now, I think.
Okay.
We did get our side-by-side for the parks, so for the next round. So that's in play, and Beyond that, the park looks pretty good. We're going to talk with FEMA tomorrow a little further about our restroom, and the concrete project on some damaged concrete there. So beyond that, I got nothing more.
Thank you. Counselor Tesdale.
So I had a bunch of stuff written down and left my packet at home, but I'll go off memory. I joined in on the kokanee tournament, the fishing derby. That was held on the 24th last month, and over at Canes, and that was really fun. Everybody, they said that the turnout was the largest they've had so far, and really enjoyed themselves. And so that was fun to be involved in. And then I didn't go fishing though; I had no boat. Also, getting a group together, stakeholders. I got to make some calls to try and get them in on a meeting that we've got with I can't remember the name of the tourism. It's not a company, but Willamette Valley Tourism, and we're going to try and bring in some stakeholders to talk about the future of tourism, what people are hoping to see, and maybe discuss a little bit about bike paths, try and get some people in there with know-how and how to make some connectivity with those. There was something else I can't remember, so I'll leave it at that until the next council meeting.
Thank you. Counselor Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Deputy Olson is not going to be present today. He's on assignment somewhere else. But we have discussed that we're not getting a lot of data that's being called into the Marion County Sheriffs, which is hindering or possibly hindering our funds that we'd be getting to use for overtime and such for the canyon patrols. What he's suggesting is, of course, if it's an emergency, 911, but for other things, we've heard reports of people being in town that are possibly not supposed to be there, or they're causing people some angst. He's asking that you call the non-emergency phone number for Marion County Sheriffs, and that phone number is 503-588-5032. And we're just trying to get data, so we have data to support the patrols and everything through the canyon up through Detroit to help keep it even safer, especially when they're not on the water yet. So that's all I've got.
Thank you. And just so everybody knows that Deputy Olson is on Billy Chinook teaching new boat cops how to be boat cops. So called me yesterday. Well, Counselor Luke.
Water Commission, supporting, they're still doing some testing, talking to Matt today. Just got the update. Been working some last week with the ideas and support that were brought up tonight too, with Chris Epley and the direction we're going to go on that. Water is available for people. They need to call the office or write in and get signed up for that. And it's no more real news than the last time. It's there. We're working on it. We're getting closer, and it'll just continue.
Thank you, Counselor Shepard.
Yeah, I had a good meeting with Penny Keene from the Forest Service today about the issue of the trees that were dropped at the back of Tumble Street and Kenny. It's about a 2-acre patch. They've been laying there since late March, and kind of worried about a fire hazard. And I was hoping they could come up with what they call a green sheet sale, where somebody would just pay so much a board foot, but they don't do that anymore. So I guess they're going to put it up for bid. So those trees may be laying there and maybe until July. I was hoping we could get them out of there earlier, because there's already red slash, and I was kind of worried about fire. And then I kind of wondering, we're at the start of the paving season, and I was wondering when RNG were going to pave their unpaved trench lines and the overlays, like on 3rd Street and 2nd Street, where our streets are continuing to deteriorate with the longer those areas aren't paved. And I'm just worried about the cost, and I don't want us to get stuck with the bill. And also, I've been making calculations. I've been working with Chris Epley. I've been doing a lot of walking and talking and measuring with a couple of folks with the wheel, and working out the square footage of the hydro seeding that we're going to put on the street right of ways. And so far, it looks like it could be close to, with the 15 lane miles that we have, close to about probably close to seven square acres. Probably about the size of Kim Fowler's property there surrounding the park. And I'm still planning on focusing on the two paving projects. They're each $100,000 that were awarded to us. I want to pave Scott Street, and I want to move forward on the Forest Avenue realignment and paving and the pedestrian walkway. And we won't be striping streets this year. We normally would if we do it in a 2-year cycle. It's a safety issue we've done for years. But there's so much activity with heavy trucks, and there's so much debris on the road that it would just tear up the paint. So I think we'll just have to wait till next year. That's about it.
Great, thank you, Shep. Any questions? Okay, Councilor Engel.
Thank you, Mayor Trett. I finally was able to get Marion County to send me the monthly reports. So for the month of April, there were 10 residential permits submitted and approved and 1 commercial. So things are looking really good in that way. And thank you to Marion County for figuring that out, finally how to report that appropriately. My good news report for the month is the downtown strip is starting to get cleaned up, as Elaine DeGeorge mentioned. The lodge property has been cleaned up. Today they cleaned up the hardware store property, and things are just starting to look a little bit better. And I want to thank ODOT and Chris Epley for making that happen, because it is a morale booster to see things a little bit cleaner in town itself. The lake is 5 feet higher yesterday than it has been. So that's a little thing. We can't control that, but thank goodness that that's happening. And the docks are floating. There's still a lot of work to be done, but the docks are floating. So that is very good news. Mountain High has a food truck that is open and running, and I waved at them in the truck today. The state park is open and is taking reservations. And we will be having a fishing derby hosted by Della Raba on Memorial Day weekend. I have nothing bad to report, only good to report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. As far as the mayor's report, first of all, I want to thank COG and McCray. McCray has stepped up and is taking care of all the planning issues for the city. People will take their plans into City Hall. Staff will just make sure that everything is there. They'll forward it to McCray. She'll do the city part, forward it to the county. So that's streamlined that process. And in doing that, it's taken a huge load off the city staff. So thank you, McCray, for stepping up and doing that. And thanks to COG for supporting that. Good news is, for me, is I got a call from Tim. I can never remember his last name, who is the director of the Corps for the basin, Willamette Basin. He said they're doing their best to get water in right now. They're holding back 200 cubic feet per second more than they're supposed to raise the lake level. In other words, for 200 feet below, CFS below what they should be running through the dam, trying to make up for it. They have recognized that the snowpack is already 2/3 gone, and that's going to be a problem not only for us, but for people down the river also. So the good news is this year, for the first time, I think I see them trying to do something. So my thanks to that. Other than that, the usual meetings, 3 or 4 FEMA meetings a week, conferences with staff, and now Chris. So, and I want to thank Chris, for being here. Moving along, staff reports, the Marion County Community Development Manager, Chris, Mr. Epley.
Thank you, Mayor Trett. And just two things. One, I've been talking to all of you about the idea of a town hall where basically everybody who's working on something would have the ability to share an update with the citizens in person up in Detroit. And it's looking like the 22nd of May is the best date to get the most number of people together in the morning to provide that kind of an update, that sort of a town hall. So if the council is amenable to 10 a.m. 22nd of May for a town hall, and we would have ODOT, we would have FEMA, we would have McCrae, HBH, I would be there, you'd be there, county commissioners would be there, Marion County Public Works, Marion County Planning, update on the sewer project, like as much as we can get, as much information as we can provide people in one place at one time, then I will coordinate the rest of that. And the way it would work would be it would actually be a noticed joint meeting between the city council and the county commissioners, because there would be very likely a quorum of both bodies. So it would have to be noticed and actually a meeting called into order, and then you would have your town hall and then you would adjourn. So I can by consensus agree that that is that will work, then I'll continue putting that together.
Oh, Chris, Greg Shepherd, what time would that be? What time would that be on the 22nd?
It would be at 10 a.m. until it's done.
Okay. Yeah, one thing I've noticed walking around town, I've met some great people I probably wouldn't have met if it hadn't been for the fire. And I think that's one of the benefits, if you can call it a benefit, of all the negativity and all the destruction that we experienced. But I've really met some great people around town, and it's kind of like the old cowboy Thanksgiving spirit. You know, if we get the people together like that in town and just start working things out, it's been pretty positive as far as that.
So good on the 22nd. And I know that Councilor Engel isn't able to make that date, but unfortunately that is the date that's sort of coalescing. So I apologize. She wanted to be there for that. Couldn't, so.
Anybody else have a conflict?
Okay. And then the only other thing then is I just wanted to let you all know how happy and honored I am to be working with you. Thank you.
Thank you. City Recorder.
Normally the bills payable, pay the bills is in the front of the agenda, but we did not do that, and so we. Yeah.
So Kelly, does this include everything that we received in like 2 different emails and in our packets and everything?
When you talk bills payable, as far as I know, so whatever you have there is what she sent.
So I'd like to make a motion, Mayor Tritt.
Oh, Councilor Engel.
I make a motion that we accept the bills payable for the month of April and pay the bills.
I have a motion, Councilor Engel, to pay the bills. Second, Councilor Smith. Discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Abstentions. Motion passes unanimously.
I have one other thing here. This is a memo from Christine regarding the Budget Committee update to the Detroit City Council. The city is in receipt of 2 additional applications to serve on the Budget Committee. Please appoint Dave Danielson and Sonia Kellis to the Budget Committee. Per Oregon budget law, the city is required to do its best to find citizen participants in an equal number as council, which would be 7. With the additions listed above, we now have 5. The first Budget Committee meeting is scheduled on Friday, May 14th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. at Kaiser Council Chambers.
Who are the names? Who are the names again? I'm sorry.
Dave Danielson and Sonia Kellis.
Last name on Sonia?
Kellas.
Okay. So do I have a motion to appoint Dave Danielson and Sonia Kellis to the Detroit City Budget Committee?
I'll make the motion.
Motion, Counselor Shepherd, to appoint Dave Daniels and Sonia Kellis to the Detroit City Planning Budget Committee. Second?
Second it.
Second, Counselor Luke. Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
That's all I have for now.
Okay, city, and that's going to be also city finance officer's report, I'm assuming. Planning, McCray.
So I thought I'd give a quick update on our land use activities. Since the beginning of the year, we've had 4 access permits, 7 property line adjustments, the variance that you all heard this evening, a modification to a conditional use, and a site plan review and a conditional use public hearing. And in reviewing the files for Detroit, that number of applications is more applications than you had over the course of several years, right? Just within the past 4 months of activity. Some of this started in November, some of these applications, but I just wanted to share that there is a lot going on, and you as a community are providing excellent leadership and engagement, and I will continue to work with you. We're working on the floodplain ordinance and implementing that in a way for property owners that will, make sense and be smart, as smart as it has to be, what we need to. And with Planning Commission, we've started discussions about vision plans, visioning plan, or the Main Street program. There's probably lots of different things. And so hopefully some of this can happen at our town hall meeting on the 22nd. And within that vision plan, right, there's the what we want, what the future of Detroit looks like, and then start looking at our code, both how do we have code language that allows that. But then over the next year, I want to be hearing and working with all of you on code updates, because what the past 6 months working with y'all has shown me is that there are things in our code that aren't smart for Detroit and don't work. And as I'm working with you all, we find them. And so this is a really good opportunity to do some long range planning and hear from you all. And so I just would encourage everyone to reach out and share things and attend your planning commission meeting. So thank you. And dogs are barking now, so I'm going to mute.
Thanks, McCray.
Thank you. City Clerk, Michelle O'Connor. Michelle Connor.
I'm here.
Anything to report?
Yeah, I'm just going to let everybody know. I did a second round of training on the new water software last week. I spent about 2 hours with them on the phone, just kind of going over what I went through when I first started. And we officially did our first meter reading yesterday of the meters that are working in town. We got a report back, and right now we're just kind of going over that. We had some oddball things that, we had a meter that went backwards, and we have some meters that look like we need to research. Maybe there was a leak, or they had, excessive amount of water that went through them. So we're just kind of working out the kinks. I spent some time on the phone with them today. We had a lot of properties that sold since the fire, so I have to transfer out the old owners and transfer in the new owners. So anyway, I've just been working on getting the water program cleaned up so we can get back to getting the water bills going again.
Thank you. Marion County Sheriff Garrett Olson is, like I said, on Billy Chinook. Identity Detroit Fire Protection District. Is Damon here or anybody from fire? Okay. North Sandiam Sewer Authority. Ken?
There's no new news, but I'm looking forward to May 22nd. Thanks, Chris.
This is gonna be fun. No, all good news. It's gonna be good. We'll wait till then. Thank you. City attorney is in another meeting tonight. Don't know of anybody else. Any other business before the council?
Hey, Mayor,
Council Tisdale.
I remembered what I forgot. So, in my normal job, I work with soil and water, and we work with the North Sandiam Watershed Council. I'm going to turn down my volume here. And I was notified that there's native seed for free available. Also erosion control straw bales and straw wattles, those are free. And there's a potential for an OWEB grant coming down for the canyon for weed control. And she asked me if we needed any now. And I said that most ground is disturbed and scraped in the properties, so that we're not seeing a lot of weeds, but that probably come back in the fall rains. And so she's going to ask OWEB if they can postpone the monies until later when it's available for Detroit. If anybody wants the contact information for the free native seed or wattles or bales, if you could contact the city to get my email, then I can give you that contact. And maybe I don't know if the emails are on the city website yet or not. But, if you guys contact the city, then I can pass that information on.
Great, thank you for that. Okay, anything else? If not, next meeting is scheduled for May 18th at 5:30 p.m. But we just voted to make that 6:30, correct? So it'll be at 6:30 p.m. This chamber is not available that night, so we'll come up with, we'll announce what we're going to do there. And then the rest of those meetings should all stay June through July, should all be at 6:30 and go from there. Again, reminder that the May 18th meeting, if there's nothing pressing to vote on or discuss, well, we will waive that meeting because that was our plan from the beginning. So we'll see what's there for the agenda. But just be aware, you might want to check to make sure for people who are watching to keep your eyes open to see if for some reason that meeting is canceled.
Mayor Tritt?
Councilor Shepherd.
Yeah, I noticed that the budget meeting wasn't on that list. It's still May 14th.
Yes.
It's 6:30.
I think the only, I think we should put those on those meetings. Thanks for catching that, Shep. Right, what they put here was just council meetings, but you're right. We should put budget meetings there also.
Was that 6:30?
5:30.
May 14th. 5:30.
5:30. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
Councilor Page moves to adjourn. Second, Councilor Luke. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We are adjourned at 8:08. Thank you very much, everybody.
Everybody.
Oh, this is my laptop now?